Your 9-4 Chicago Bears are set to get back on track as they host the Cleveland Browns at the Lakefront this coming Sunday from frigid Soldier Field. In basketball, the Bulls played tonight. Yay! They haven't played all week, but amidst all the madness and the trash, there are trade rumors going around once again. We'll dig into that as well. And do you care about the NBA Cup now? It's moving to Vegas once again. We'll dig into all that gambling mess coming up. In college basketball, the Fighting Illini make it 2 in a row as they beat the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Show Me State. We'll get into that. The Stuart Scott 30 for 30 documentary will give you our Cisco and Ebert review on that. And the University of Michigan is in hot water, to say the least. That and the return of our girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika, who are with our Week 15 NFL picks. That and a whole lot more as the Hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports starts now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one, a drive into left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! Robert Jr., his fourth of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide, up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington, no chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Getting what a pass. Buzelis with the fade on the drive.
Uzi motions up. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb Groves, middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears!
Welcome to the Hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, so Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call the Sports Talk Radio Show, you got to hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the opening screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I'll forgive LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to build and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE Live Entertainment Game. That's checking us out live right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:22 p.m. Central Standard Time. But let's not forget much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay, also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
We invite you some of the best here on Second City Sports. Of course, we got some college hoops as conference play starts in the Big Ten. Illinois has got a big matchup, against the undefeated Nebraska squad. We'll talk about that. And the rest of the weekend coming up in college hoops. The weird stuff that's happening over at Michigan football. Oh boy, it's kind of definitely a soap opera to say the least. And not to mention, now they're looking for a new coach, so we'll talk about
soap
that.
Opera queen, but this one is it's a hot mess. I'll just leave it at that.
Hot. Well, yeah. We'll also talk about stuff on the field as the first batch of bowl games begin, and we'll talk about who we think will win the Heisman Trophy. Our girl Christine Mann from KXRB will share. Of course, we'll do our NFL Week 15 pick'ems, and also, of course, how does she feel about her Notre Dame Fighting Irish not going to a bowl game? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that, and of course, a little bit of Blackhawks as they got back on track this week. The Bulls are back in action tonight. Yay! And Yay! Well, and so much more. But first, we're gonna. Well, it's not gonna be like super. Well, there have been some colder games. I actually have a list of some of the colder games at Soldier Field, but they will be facing the Bears. Will try to get back on track against the Browns at Soldier Field. It's gonna be freezing, to say the least. And of course, I know Kevin Byard, who leads the league in interceptions, said that he doesn't believe in track games and such and blah 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 and whatever. But to me, I think this is a trap game, whether the Bears want to admit it or not. And I'm glad they have that mindset that this could be a trap game and they can't take them lightly. Of course, they face the Packers again next Sunday. But look, you've got I know they're 3-10, but I'm talking about the Browns. But they've got we'll see how Shedeur Sanders goes up against that Bears defense. Quinshon Judkins, I think, could have a big game against that rush defense of the Bears because that's the one thing that's a big deterrent for them and such. And also Myles Garrett. He has a lot to play for as he's still trying to get that sack running on track for that. So the Browns might be tanking, if you will. I'm doing the air quotes here for those of you who are listening to us, but they still got a lot to play for as well, and they would love to play spoiler for the Bears. So say, where do you see this matchup?
Speaking of trap games, DeAndre Swift was asked earlier this week, what's the trap game? Paraphrasing, he said he doesn't know. I'll answer that question for him. A trap game is looking at your opponent that you're better than on paper and taking them lightly. And the Bears, are they a good team? Yes, but they cannot afford to take any opponent lightly. And as we said on our show this past Monday, that with this loss against the Packers, it'll wake this team up and get them back refocused. I believe they'll do that. We'll give out our picks later. But with Ben Johnson having the pulse of the players and the pulse of that locker room, the Bears will be focused and they will get back on track to do the things what they need to do as far as winning this ball game, finishing out the season strong, and hopefully in preparations for a long playoff run. But as far as this week is concerned, the Cleveland Browns, like you said, any opponent in the National Football League, we've seen it all year. You cannot take anybody lightly. We've seen crazy upsets. We saw one last night with the Falcons and the Buccaneers. I just got finished watching that. If you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, you better have your hair like me right now with no hair on top of your head. But for Chicago, we talked about their defense being opportunistic all year. I think this is a chance for them to regain that swagger with the rookie quarterback, like you said, Shedeur Sanders. Quinshon Judkins is very good, but the Cleveland Browns offensive line is beat up right now. And they have decent wide receivers with Jerry Jeudy. But the Bears defense, I think, will have an opportunity to take the ball away. Offensively is where I'm focused at for Chicago. Get back to what made you successful early in the year. What you've been on this run lately is run the football, and hopefully gets a couple of your wide receivers, in particular DJ Moore and Roma Duzé. Hopefully he returns from his foot injury involved in its offense. And if they can do those things, the Bears will get back to their winning ways.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Now, I don't know if Swift was being facetious with that whole comment about what's a trap game. But yeah, you don't want to give a team like the Browns, especially when they don't really have nothing to play for, bulletin board material. So he better watch what he says. Now it's gonna be windy. I know. I guess the temperature, it's gonna be like 5 or 6 degrees with maybe wind chill is going to be below 0 or near below 0. I think like -3. I think I've seen. So yeah, it could be one of those things where it might come down to the run game, and the Bears actually do have a decent run game with Swift and Manika, so that should help them a little bit there. But again, that rush defense of the Bears, for me, that's a little bit. I don't know, like that. That's the numbers. For me, is it seems like Look, I'm not saying that the Browns can win this game, but if they do, I wouldn't be surprised because we've seen weirder things happen in the NFL this year. Mm-hmm. See last night. But yeah, I mean, look, this is a good way for the Bears to get back on track. But also, this could be a thing where this might be the beginning of the end. It goes both ways with this Bears squad. I don't care who's coaching them. So I'm in that mode where, look, if you say that you're not taking the Browns lightly, well, prove it to me on Sunday. Prove it to us on Sunday then.
For the Chicago Bears offense, Caleb Williams, excuse me, I'm looking at him to have an effective game. Of course, he had that turnover, which ended the Bears' chances at a comeback victory last week. I think that for Caleb, He'll definitely, like he has all year, he's benefited from that strong running game of Kyle Manika and DeAndre Swift. If the Bears get off the bus running early, set that tone up front, it's going to open up passing lanes for Caleb Williams to get the balls to tight ends, and it has some creative plays for Rome Medusa if he returns from his injury, and DJ Moore, who was less underutilized last week. But we all know that Caleb is a 50-50 chance of what Caleb can do once he gets out of the pocket. I know Myles Garrett is that bad man standing on the other side for the Cleveland Browns, as you mentioned earlier. But if Caleb, like he has been lately, outside of that turnover which ended the game last week, if Caleb continues to improve, be smart with that football, not turning over once he gets out of that pocket, when he knows that he doesn't have a chance to make a play, take the sack or throw the ball away, I think that he's going to be fine. But the Bears have to get off the bus running, control the line of scrimmage on both ends, and I think they'll be okay. Now, going back to the Bears' defense, somehow, some way, Montez Sweat has 8.5 sacks, okay. But with that Browns offensive line being in shambles right now due to injuries, can we get a Bears performance, i.e. Gervon Dexter, i.e. Andrew Billings, i.e. anybody else that want to step up in that defensive line? Can we get them to step up and have some tackles for losses? Can we have them step up and have a couple of quarterback sacks? I don't think that's too much to ask, LaKeena, especially against an inferior team.
Also, that doesn't say Rome Medusa has been limited at practice this week, so we'll see if he plays. That could help the Bears a little bit, but I would be surprised if they decide to save it for next Sunday against the Packers. That's just my opinion. But I think for me, it's going to be interesting to see, like I said, we'll see how the Bears respond, after that Packers loss. Do they, come back and, be the mentality that, look, you're better than the Browns, you impose their will early, or will it be like the Giants game where they have a slow start and we'll see if they make it pay. So like I said, I'm kind of in improvement mode with the Bears. They should win this game, but again, we've seen weird things happen in the NFL. So you're a better team. The Bears are a better team than the Browns. They need to play like it.
And just a couple of things to wrap up before we take our bottom of the hour break. This is going to be a chess match once again between the head coaches, Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns and Ben Johnson of the Chicago Bears. I'll take the Chicago side first. Let's see if Ben Johnson can get creative with the passing game, assuming that the Bears get off the bus running early. I want to see Colston Loveland be more involved. Of course, everybody talks about DJ Moore. Let's see if Cole Kmet can get involved, especially in the red zone. Remember, LaKeena, with the red zone, the Bears still having their issues inside the 20-yard line going into the red zone. So let's see if that issue can get cleaned up. And I know this hasn't been brought up too much this week on both radio stations, but with potentially a 20 to 25 mile an hour winds at Soldier Field, it better not come down to Cairo Santos outside of 35 yards with that wind, because if it does, let's just say it's going to be more than this. Just the wind is going to be in play there. That's all. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, because because we know that he does not do well from beyond 30 yards. Beyond 30 yards, especially in the there might be 30-mile-an-hour winds. So that might be one of those things where kicking could be. We know Andre Schmidt, who's the kicker for the Browns, can make kicks in the wind. So if it comes down to, you better hope, if you're a Bears fan, you hope it doesn't come down to that. So we'll see what happens. We'll take a really quick break. Of course, we're going to switch gears and talk some basketball as the Bulls. They're back in action today. First time this week. Do you care about the NBA Cup? I don't think a lot of people do. And we'll talk some college hoops, time permitting, as a great weekend of games coming up this weekend and this weekend also. MLB, if we got time for that. Some big moves. The Mets lose a couple of their big time guys. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. More, we'll talk college hoops and NBA and a little baseball too. Time for it coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Chi. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch. And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch. You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops. Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live and living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McGee McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
I'm sure there's AK and G and Mark Eversley calling. I don't know. You can follow. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms as we discuss the Bulls in the NBA and college hoops for this segment. If you have any questions or comments regarding those subjects, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. LaKeena will get the opening screen for you.
Yeah, the Bulls haven't played all week, so I think everybody should be thrilled about that. They're back in action tonight against Charlotte, so I think hopefully they can get back on track. That's really all you can do at this point if you're a Bulls fan. So yeah, we won't go into too much detail with that. Now going to the rest of the NBA, the games, from like I said, it was a light schedule this week. We'll talk about the games from yesterday. Houston, Alpero Sagan had 22 as. The Rockets, edged out the Clippers 115-113. Milwaukee pulled away from Boston. Kyle Kuzma had 31. New Orleans beat Portland. If you took the over on this game, you had a nice night last night, 143-120 for that one. And Jokic had a triple-double as the Nuggets beat the Kings 136-135.
Yeah, the Bucks, as we talked about in the last couple of shows, they're going to be without Giannis Antetokounmpo for a month due to an injury. The Celtics still trying to find themselves. The Rockets quietly are starting to ascend to the top of the Western Conference, next to Denver, next to Los Angeles Lakers. And like I said, the Pelicans, they finally won. They're still one of the worst teams in the league, next to the Washington Wizards. And, of course, Denver. They're going through some injury bugs right now, and the Sacramento Kings. So they should have a for sale sign outside of their new arena, ready to trade their various, i.e. Zach LaVine, i.e. DeMar DeRozan, to name a few.
Yeah, absolutely. So very interesting, games last night. Now, the NBA Cup was on. Well, the quarterfinals was on Wednesday and Tuesday. OKC, no trouble with Phoenix, 138-89. SGA had 28 points, so that was a tough. San Antonio with a pretty impressive performance. They beat the Lakers without. Remember, this is a San Antonio team that's been playing without Victor Wembanyama. Stephen Castle, who's kind of led the way there in his absence, 30 points, 20 points for De'Aaron Fox, and they had some guys do off the bench. Keldon Johnson, 17, and Julian Champagne had 16. Now, as for the Lakers, 35 points for Luka, only 19 points from LeBron in a losing effort there. It was really basically just well, you could probably say the Spurs just they just outshot the Lakers in this game.
Well, we know LeBron James will not add another meaningless NBA Cup to his resume. That's number one. And number two, let me ask you this question. You mentioned about the Oklahoma City Thunder. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's only put up those numbers in 2.5 quarters, which is amazing. But we saw that here in Chicago a lot of times, named Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I want to ask you, LaKeena, there's been this talk around the league that the Oklahoma City Thunder should go for 74 wins. You know the story about the Golden State Warriors being of 2016. They beat the 96 Bulls with the 72 wins team. Steve Kerr that famously asked the team, do you want to go for that record back at 2016? They did. Of course, fatigue and injury cost them in the finals of the year against LeBron James in the Cleveland Cavaliers, blowing that historic 3-1 lead. I'll ask you, should OKC go for that 74-win season? It doesn't really matter. I'll have my answer after you answer.
I don't think it. I don't think that matters to them. I think if you ask SGA, Holmgren, and the rest of those guys, I don't think they really care. They just want to win their championship, and they might win an NBA Cup. They're in the semifinals. So I don't think they. And I'm sure they're aware of what happened with that Warriors squad. Like I said, fatigue got to them, and that's why they lost. They lost in 7, but they were up 3-1 against LeBron and the Cavs. So in 2016, so yeah, it's kind of like I don't think that they really care. Now, look, if they clinch everything, the number 1 seed in the West, and and what have you, I could see them perhaps I know they're young overall; they're very young. I think they're still like one of the youngest teams, not the youngest team in the league. They'll probably sit out some guys just to kind of much to the chagrin of some of their fans, just to see just to kind of like save their energy. This squad's a little bit younger than that Warriors squad, because they've already won like 2 championships by that point. So that could help them a little bit. But I don't think they really care about the record. I think they just want to keep winning as much as they can.
I don't think they should go for 74 either. They will win their 55 to 60 games, and it's unfortunate. We both come from the school that where regular seasons did matter back then. Unfortunately, in today's NBA culture, unfortunately, it doesn't. Well, we had to save ourselves for the playoffs. Those same teams that say that, they end up losing in the playoffs. So people can miss me with that. But this team is still young, LaKeena, like that Warriors team. They were going right into their prime, and so they really cared about not just winning championships, but collecting accolades along the way. This Oklahoma City team, as you said, and we said it last year when they won the title, they played together as a team. They're one of the youngest teams in the league. This core is going to be around for a while. So it's not like a team like Denver or, to a lesser extent, the Dallas Mavericks from a couple of years ago when they had those veterans. Like, we got to do it now, or else they're going to break up the team and blah, blah, blah. Oklahoma City, from that aspect, doesn't have to worry about that. They really don't have anything to prove as far as this season is concerned overall, whether they win or not. They definitely don't have anything to prove as far as the regular season is concerned. Just get healthy enough when it comes to April, May, and perhaps June if you're lucky enough to play in the finals again.
Going to be very interested to see what they do here. Now, the other quarterfinals, Orlando beat Miami. Desmond Bay had 37 points, which ties a career high. The Knicks, they advanced as well, 117-101 over Toronto. Jalen Brunson had 35. Does anybody really even care about the NBA Cup? I mean, it's sort of like one of those things where, hey, get a free trip to Vegas, and after that, the games don't count. So if you end up losing next week, it won't count in the standings. So okay, you get an extra what, $250,000? Okay, yippee! Yay.
Yeah, if you're an NBA player that came up from the G League or just making significantly less, it will matter to you. But like you said, most of those veterans that have these multi-million-dollar contracts, it's not going to matter to them. So we said that the first year that LeBron James and crew won the title over the Indiana Pacers, I think it did more for Indiana as far as bringing them national exposure to their team. Of course, they made the finals last year. But with these 4 teams you mentioned going to the Las Vegas for the Cup. Okay, the Knicks will get a little bit more shine. Maybe for some of their fans, this may be the precursor to maybe this is a sign for them that they're going to the NBA Finals this year. Who knows? I think it could do some good for the Orlando Magic because there's even though I'm not going to say they're rebuilding, but they're on the rise. You mentioned Desmond Bain, one of the big signings via trade this offseason. He's really done well. Orlando's starting to pick it up once again. They're dealing with injuries. I think this NBA Cup will do wonders for them. OKC, if they win it, great. I know they played in it last year against Houston. Okay, got a little chippy there in the championship game, but outside of that, it's not really going to do them any good. And of course, the Spurs, it sucks without Victor Wembanyama because he's not going to be there because of injury. But outside of Orlando, those other three teams I just mentioned, the exposure is not really going to do too much for them. Now, maybe individually, if you're San Antonio, like Stephon Castle, the last year's NBA Rookie of the Year, some of the couple other young guys, I'll give you that. But as far as teams concerned, outside of Orlando, the exposure with those other three teams, it really doesn't matter that much. It really doesn't, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks are like, okay, they're the Knicks. Okay, OKC, the defending champions. San Antonio, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be interesting to see, like, I want to see what the crowds are. Well, we'll see about that. We'll talk more about that as we get into it next week here with the NBA Cup semifinals. Monday's games, Indiana beat Sacramento. Andrew Newbrand had 28 points there. Phoenix upset without Booker. Remember, this is Phoenix team that they don't have Booker. Devin Booker right now, but they got a nice win against Minnesota, 108-105. Mark Williams had 22 points. Colin Gillespie, remember that? I remember that name from way back. Well, not that far back. Villanova, of course, but not that far back. But yeah, he had 19 points, which was a career high for him. So Phoenix got a nice upset win against the T-Wolves. And I just lost my. San Antonio, of course, they had a nice sweep. They got a win, beating the Pelicans, edging them out. 24 points for Harrison Barnes.
I know you don't want me to do this, LaKeena, but before we get to the schedule for this weekend's games, I want to go back to the Bulls real quick. I was listening to the Flagships podcast by the Horns, and they were discussing, of course, there's going to be a lot of trade rumors surrounding this Bulls team between now and the trade deadline in early February. Of course, Kobe White, who's been injured for the majority of the season, he's only played in 7 games. The Bulls are 2-5 in those games that Kobe White has played in so far this year. The latest trade rumor found courtesy of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Terrence Shannon Jr. Of course, you remember him for the Illini, the team that almost made the Final Four last year. And Dante DiVincenzo in exchange for Kobe White. Would you pull that deal if you're AK or Mark Eversley?
Yeah, someone's playing with a trade machine. Are you getting good? Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Because I think I just look. I mean, those are probably the two that T-Wolves would trade, but it's just like, what? No, I mean, no. And look, both players have been okay for the T-Wolves, but I don't know what do the Bulls even know what they're trying to do at this point? So I saw that trade, I'm like, no, hell no.
I wouldn't do that trade either. I know Terrence Shannon Jr. has a great upside, but Dante DiVincenzo, we saw what his worth was last year with that Timberwolves team, especially in that first round upset against the Lakers. He needs to go to a team like back to Milwaukee if Giannis ever gets healthy. I know the Knicks, even though they're doing well now, they miss him, to be honest with you. But he needs to go to teams like that values his services. Being him here in Chicago, okay, he's that veteran that's going to teach whoever's left on this team something. I get that aspect of it, but as far as where the Bulls want to go, he's no use here. No disrespect to DiVincenzo, but he's going to be your best player. And let's be real. Kobe White, when he's healthy, he's one of the best scoring guards in the league in the bottom half. The Bulls' best asset to trade right now is Kobe White. They got to get him healthy, got to get him back out there playing games. And the second person that will bring the most value, even though it won't be much because he's a double-digit veteran, but he can still be useful around the league, and that's Vucevic. Now, will Vucevic bring back the same value as Kobe White? No, because Vucevic is older. But the most value that the Bulls can have right now is Kobe White. But what the league is telling them right now, we're not going to give you think his value is because he's hurt?
I don't know. Well, like I said, DiVincenzo, I think I said he wouldn't fit the Bulls, so I'm just gonna leave it there. Speaking of the Bulls, you'll go into this weekend schedule. The Bulls, they play Charlotte. They're back in action tonight. That's at 6:00. Atlanta and Detroit. That's the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader. Indy and Philadelphia. Cleveland and Washington, Utah and Memphis, Brooklyn and Dallas. And well, I know that they're kind of playing it slow with stuff as Golden State. They're back in action too this week. They will host Minnesota. That's the second game of the NBA TV doubleheader for tonight.
All right, tomorrow these games will be in Vegas because of the NBA Cup semifinals, and both these games can be seen on Amazon Prime. First at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the New York Knicks will face the Orlando Magic, followed by the San Antonio Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder at 8 o'clock. Both those games can be seen on Amazon Prime tomorrow. Speaking of Amazon Prime, real quickly, Keena, did you see last week John Wall? He did the Dougie with Taylor Rooks and the rest of the crew. I thought that was fun.
Oh God, Steve Nash, he's one of those white guys that's
yeah.
Like, he only do so much. Yes. So yeah, so I'm just gonna stand here and just do the swing and stuff. Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was actually pretty funny. And too.
Yeah, I was gonna say he had a little style to his Carlton dance. I'll just leave it at that. just a little bit, Luke. Just a little bit.
I blame Wall for bringing that Dougie to the stratosphere, to the atmosphere, to the litmus here. Sunday you got Washington and Indiana, Charlotte and Cleveland, Philadelphia and Atlanta, Milwaukee and Brooklyn, Sacramento and Minnesota. The Bulls, they'll host the Pelicans. Yay. And the Lakers and Phoenix, we'll see if Lakers will get their revenge. And also Golden State, they face Portland as the regular NBA guys, come back in action on Sunday. And that is the schedule for this weekend in the NBA.
You're listening to Second City Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you. Since we have a few minutes left in hour number one, let's transition over to college basketball. This past Tuesday, LaKeena, the Fighting Illini make it 2 in a row on the road as the Fighting Illini defeated the Ohio State Buckeyes in Big Ten play 88-80. Keaton Wagler scored 23 points for the Fighting Illini, opened up their Big Ten schedule with a big 8-point win on this past Tuesday. Keaton Wagler, as I mentioned, 6 of 11 overall from the field, including 8 of 9 from the free throw line. On the flip side for the Buckeyes, Bruce Thornton, 34 points, including 13 and 17 shooting overall, and 2 of 2 from the free throw line.
Yeah, nice win for the Illini in a very tough environment out there in Columbus. So you got a nice win there, and it sets up a pretty solid matchup coming up tomorrow. We'll talk about that in a second, but I think the Illini just made the big plays when they needed to against that's a very tough Ohio State squad. So not wasn't too worried about them in that matchup. Like I said, we'll get to that matchup against Nebraska in a second here. Now, some of the other scores for this week, of course, Purdue with a nice bounce back win. Boy, they bounced back against Rutgers on Tuesday. Florida, Duke edged out Florida. That was wait, hold on, I'm in the wrong thing here. Oh, here we go. The guy live post my computer went all the different. Okay, Michigan, no trouble with Villanova. Again, this is from Tuesday. Connecticut edged out Florida in their revenge in the regional semi-final from last year. Solo Ball had 19 points, so including some big shots there. AJ Dabatsa had 28 points, including the game-winning three-pointer as BYU came back to beat Clemson. Clemson, the basketball edition there, they had a 13-point lead in the second half. Ooh, that was just a bad loss there. Let's see other games of note. DePaul with a nice win against Morgan State. Indiana beat Penn State. USC, no trouble with San Diego. Arizona State, no trouble with Northern Arizona. These are Tuesday's games. All right. Wednesday, Purdue with a nice bounce back win against Minnesota. Boy, they pound them pretty hard. Nebraska, like I talked about here, 90-60 over Wisconsin. People thought that game was going to be a lot closer. Rick Moss has 17 points. He can shoot the three, both outside. They can do it inside as well. So that's, like I said, we'll talk about, we'll preview that game in a minute here, but just going through some of the other games of note from this week. Let me see if there's anything else. Iowa State, they say defeated being Iowa. That was a very entertaining game at Ames yesterday by 4. Joshua Jefferson had 24 points leading Iowa State as they stand defeated.
All right, so for people like me that are college football is over with and we're slowly to get into college basketball, we'll transition over to not all the games, but obviously, but some of the big time matchups this weekend. Like you mentioned, we'll get to the Illinois-Nebraska game in just a moment. But tonight's game, I'm really looking forward to this one. Texas versus number 5 UConn. It's going to be on Fox at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. What should we look for from these two teams? Texas 73, number 5 UConn 9-1. UConn's favored by 13.5 points.
Yeah, Texas is. I don't want to say they're rebuilding, but look, this is their first year head coach Sean Miller. Of course, you guys remember him from Arizona and such. But yeah, he's definitely putting his own spin to the program. But yeah, still a very young squad right now for Texas. I should say Texas has been they've been pretty solid. But yeah, like I said, Solar Ball, he's a guy for UConn. 15 points, he can shoot the three. So yeah, I think that's probably why UConn is favored so high in that game. But yeah, I think it should be a good one there. That'll be on Fox. Missouri State Xavier, Richard Pitino, his first year there. He's been doing pretty well for Xavier so far. That game will be on True TV at 6 o'clock tonight.
All right, tomorrow's game are as follows. Just some of the big games, folks. Number 9, Michigan at Penn State. That's 11 o'clock a.m. on BTN. That's Big Ten Network for those of you scoring at home. Tom Izzo always has his teams ready. So I think he'll have his guys have him ready for a big road game in conference at Happy Valley. John Calipari, number 17, Arkansas, will travel to Texas Tech to face the 16th-ranked Red Raiders. That's at the same time on ESPN2. I'll check some of this game out on TNT. Number 22, St. John's, Rick Pitino and crews off to a sluggish 5-3 start. They'll face Iona. They are checking in at 8-3 on the year.
Yeah, definitely a brand new squad for Pitino and St. John's, facing this old squad. I don't remember he was over there for a couple years before going back to St. John's. That could be a nice bounce back win for them. Going back to Arkansas Tech game for a second. It's a couple games to watch. JT Toppin, that's Obi's kid brother, one of the top stars from Texas Tech the last couple of years, and also Darius Acuff Jr. from Arkansas. They're the true freshmen. That should be a fun one. The Battle of the Old Southwest Conference from way back when, for those of you in the 70s and 80s, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that should be a fun one in Dallas. They're playing on a neutral court there. DePaul, they face Wichita State. That's going to be on ESPNU at 11. Purdue, they host Marquette down there. Shaka Smart and his guys. They've been 5-5. They're kind of rebuilding. Purdue, I know they lost. They got their butts kicked by Iowa State at home, so we'll see. They can. We'll see. They beat Minnesota this week, so we'll see if they can keep it going there. Let's see here. Oh, North Carolina against South Carolina Upstate. Yes, that is a real school, folks. 1 o'clock on the CW network. That's WGN TV for Channel 9 for those who scoring at home. Northwestern, they host Jackson State. That's gonna be on BTN. See here. Oh, Florida hoping to bounce back. They should. George Washington, they haven't been relevant since back in the Mike Jarvis era, way back when. Remember that era, Sid? Yikadari and those guys from the late 90s, mid to late 90s.
Yes,
early 2000s.
He had Ron Artest, now Meta World Peace on that team. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Houston, they host New Orleans. Let's see here. Oh, this should be a good one here. Your guy Penny Hardaway.
Yeah, I know LaKeena's signal went out, so I'll pick up the rest of the schedule here. Penny Hardaway, as LaKeena was trying to say, the Tigers, Memphis Tigers, checking in at 4-4 on the year. They'll travel to Louisville to take on the Cardinals. They're ranked number 11 right now in the country. That game can be seen on ESPN tomorrow at 2:30, and of course, Big Ten action on Peacock following that Purdue game at 3 o'clock. We'll have number 13 Illinois hosted number 23 Nebraska. Nebraska 10-0. On the year. The final line, as I mentioned, 8-2. They won their last 2 games on the road against Tennessee last Saturday night. And, of course, We talked about them winning their Big Ten opener this past Tuesday at Columbus, Ohio, against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Running down the rest of the schedule here. In the Salt Lake Slam, Illinois State will take on Utah State. That's at 4:00. Illinois State is checking in at 8-2 on the year. Utah State 8-1. Southern Illinois will take on Richmond tomorrow at 5 p.m. on ESPN2. LaKeena is now back. I know you mentioned Penny Hardaway. I gave out the time in the schedule, so it snaps you right out. It snaps you right out of the atmosphere. But I'm glad you're back. Just looking at the rest of the schedule, LaKeena, I'm sure you're looking forward to this game in prime time on Fox tomorrow. Number 2 Michigan travels to Maryland. Michigan, a perfect 9-0 to start the year.
Yeah, they've been dominating a lot of teams. Talk about Michigan has Maryland. Like I said, they're starting. They're kind of, I don't want to say rebuilding, but they're sort of reloaded. I know they've had their struggles this year. They're 6-4. Michigan, I think they're favored by like 12, so they shouldn't have any troubles with Maryland, especially out there in College Park. I think they're like only got 2 losses in College Park since Maryland joined the Big Ten. Now, did you mention UIC against Belmont as they start Missouri Valley Conference play?
Shout out Jay Hood.
Yeah, so that should be a good one out down there in Tennessee. Arizona and Alabama, that should be a fun one at 8:30 on ESPN. Alabama is a 1.5-point favorite. Oddly enough, Arizona's number 1 team in the country. This should be a good one, and I think this could be one of those big scoring type things where first to 80 probably could end up winning this game. I'm really looking forward to this game. It's a CM Newton Classic. So that should be a fun one out there in Birmingham.
Yep. UCLA and Gonzaga, 10:30 p.m. on ESPN. You mentioned the Seattle Hoops Showdown. That should be interesting. And one more game of note as we close out hour number 1. Ohio State, which I mentioned earlier, they lost to Illinois at home earlier this week. They'll face West Virginia in the Cleveland Hoops Showdown. That's at 7:00 tomorrow night on ESPNU.
All right, some of the games. Let's see if there are any games for Sunday. Minnesota hosting Texas Western on BTN. Iowa State, they host Eastern Illinois. It's going to be like ESPN Plus. Oh, shout out to St. Xavier of Illinois. They're going to be facing Southeast Missouri State down there just outside St. Louis. So a nice little exposure it'll be on ESPN Plus, so it's going to be a nice little exposure for them in that program. Chicago State and Illinois Chicago, I should say, at 4:00. Coach Valentine's got they've won a couple in a row, so they're starting to creeping back on track. So we'll see if they can do that. St. Mary's and Boise State at 5:00, and Washington State against USC. That's going to be on FS1 at 6:30. A couple old rivals from the Big 10/Big 12, playing on Sunday, so that should be a fun one.
1 hour down. 1 hour to go as you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. #Football Friday with Sid and LaKeena. When we return, we'll try this again, LaKeena. How to fix your Chicago Cubs, plus other sports media news and some big sightings from the winter meetings from Orlando this past week. And plus we'll have our girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika, with her week in 15 NFL picks. That and a whole lot more. She's stick and stay right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
And welcome back to Second Seed Sports on Sports Social Chicago. You find LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, XQ's Green, the IG.
Technology, you gotta love it, don't you? I'm Sid the Kid. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
And if you guys have any question or comments, whether it's your Bears and Browns predictions, you've got, of course, we talk college hoops and NBA and Bulls. Of course, you can catch it. I'll try to post as much as I can. Comment on the space, the Sports Chicago's Facebook, YouTube channels. So as we get ready to talk baseball this segment.
Yes, the winter meetings are wrapping up in Orlando, Florida. And there was some big moves that were made before we attempt to fix LaKeena's Chicago Cubs. We'll give the big signings that took place early in the week. We'll start with the big panda bear, or the polar bear, whoever the hell you want to call him. Pete Alonso, you could call him a former New York Met. He signed a 5-year deal worth over $31 million a season. A couple of days ago, 5 years, $150 million. He'll make $31 million per year. LaKeena, the Mets, I know they made some big trades. Well, they did another move, which another move we'll get to in just a second. But Pete Alonso, I wanted him on the south side. Realistically, that wasn't going to happen. Of course, he wasn't going to go to the Cubs. But Baltimore, we talked about them this past year. They struggled with their pitching. They got Brandon Hyde fired early in the year. They didn't make a little run, but with all the other teams ahead of them, with Toronto, the New York Yankees, and Boston Red Sox, all making the playoffs, they really had to make this move to improve their chances of getting back to the playoffs for 2026.
Yeah, this is definitely a big cut, because I think that they offered Kyle Schwarber that much, and of course he decided to stay with the Phillies. In this case, with Pete Alonso, I mean, it's definitely this was definitely a big get for them. And as I said earlier, they've got a really solid lineup of guys. I mean, if you add him, you got of course Ali Rashman, you got Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday, among others. And it is definitely, though, he definitely brings more power to that lineup. So this was, like you said, this was actually, especially after what the Yankees are doing and what the Blue Jays are doing and what Boston has done. I think they really didn't really have a choice but to make this big move, and we'll see if it pays dividends for them.
Yeah, we mentioned about some of the other teams in the AL East that's done work already. Dylan Cease, you mentioned, we talked about on our last couple of shows. He signed that 7-year, $210 million deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. And of course, Boston traded for Sonny Gray from St. Louis to Boston, beefing up their starting rotation. Going back to the New York Mets, also said bye-bye to Edwin Diaz, that closer who struggled last year. He signed a 3-year, $69 million deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's right, the new evil empire, according to some. Why, I don't know, but Edwin Diaz will make close to $23 million for a year for the next 3 years. That definitely improves the Dodgers bullpen. I know Tanner Scott had his struggles this year. Some of the other veteran arms were a problem. They had to use Roki Sasaki, their rookie, during the playoffs, which saved them. But this is a big improvement for the Dodgers to have the games in their favor in the final 3 innings. So you get those final 3 outs.
He had 28 saves and had a whip of 0.87. He's one of the best closers in the league. And the fact that the Dodgers have been able to win World Series without an actual closer, I think that's a testament to what that team has done and what Dave Roberts has done. Adding Diaz in there makes that bullpen even better. So that really definitely makes them the favor for next year, for next season. So yeah, this is a really good signing for the Dodgers, and they're not stopping. Good for them. Look, they want to keep winning as much as they can. So look, they're making these big moves, and I commend them for it. I don't know why people say that they're bad for baseball, but that's really a good signing for them. And Met fans are not very happy. I was talking to our buddy Ryan Field, of course, your friend of the show from ABC 7 in New York, and he said that for what he's been hearing around there, and I saw that Tom Frazier basically eviscerated the Mets front office for not re-signing Diaz nor Alonso. So yeah. Needless to say, they're not happy over there with the New York Metropolitans, is what they've not been doing, I should say.
I think what the Mets are doing, they're building around pitching and defense. And Juan Soto, is he long for right field down the line? No, but I think he's your DH/first baseman going forward. And the Mets were not that great on defense last year. In the fact that, like I said, back there in their starting rotation was not great either. And they rebuilt their bullpen via the trade deadline, which was terrible. And that was one of the main reasons why they did not return to the postseason. You mentioned about Kyle Schwarber. He resigned earlier this week, going back to Philadelphia for 5 years, $150 million. That's $30 million a year. So he's back with that formidable lineup with him and Bryce Harper. Of course, JT Realmuto, their catcher, is still out on the market. And Ranger Suarez is out on the market. I think one of those guys will return, but I don't think Philadelphia's going to get both those guys back.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just it may not be plausible. So we'll see what happens there. Now, speaking of Suarez, closer Robert Suarez has signed with the Braves for a 3-year, $45 million. So the Braves, their pitching really wasn't really an issue last year. They had a lot of guys that were shorthanded. So that might help them. He's the top closer for the Padres. So we'll see if that'd be a good fit for them. And Mark Leiter Jr. has, of course, former Cub. He agrees to a 1-year deal to go to the A's, Sacramento, Oakland, whatever, Northern California, whatever the hell they're calling themselves these days. So some good signings so far. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be more to come as we get into the Worldly Means over with as we get into spring training, which starts I think about 8 weeks from now. Yeah. But again, way to bury the lead, Sid. I mean, the White Sox got the number 1 pick in the MLB draft. I saw a lot of people were doing memes with Pope Leo and his White Sox hat and stuff. So that was hilarious. But I think this could be a good way to perhaps maybe. People need to remember that the MLB draft is not like the NFL or the NBA draft, because whoever they pick, they'll talk about the White Sox, you probably won't see it for another 2-3 years, depending on who, where is he pitching from and such. So I know some White Sox fans are excited, but I guess some White Sox fans are like, okay, and
Yeah, you're excited for the moment, but the way Chris Getz, their GM, was talking this week, he had to be very careful with his words. I know a lot of the Chicago media were down there in Orlando pressing him about what's the next phase for the White Sox. Of course, he sold us Brady Montgomery, he sold us Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz. All three of those guys, or perhaps two of those three, will be up in the White Sox uniform at some point in 2026. This team is not spending. We knew that coming into the offseason, but Josh Barfield, the assistant GM, said, I want to improve the bullpen. And with the little fluid in terms of flexibility with financial constraints, it's only so much that Chris Getz can do. And I know some folks don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it either as a fan, but as a talking head on this side of things, I can understand what Chris Getz is trying to do now. Are the White Sox heading in the upwards trajectory? Yes, but they're still a couple years away. I know Sox fans, including myself, don't want to see another 100 loss season because it dispels all the good vibes that this fan base has felt watching these young kids. Edgar Carroll, that's Quero for those of you going at home. Edgar Carroll, Kyle Teal, Costa Montgomery, and others making improvements at the second half of the year. The White Sox finished, I believe, 8 games under 500 in the second half of the year. So you see the potential, even though they didn't have any expectations this past year. You saw the potential with these group of guys, as we talked about throughout the season. You could tell they really enjoy each other's company. They're having more fun in the clubhouse, despite all the losing. We didn't see that with the previous group that won the 2021 division. It was a bunch of factions around the clubhouse, a lot of backstabbing and things and whatnot. You're not seeing it with this young group, and with the potential lineup that this Sox team can have next year, I think it will improve. We still have a long way to go, but you like to see more than 59 wins. And as I think I said in the early offseason, I'll say it right now here on December 12th, 70 wins or more is acceptable. Let me repeat that one more again, as the kids would say. 70 wins or more is acceptable. I don't want to hear about 63, which barely gets you out of 100. I don't want to hear about 65, 69, 67. No, 70 wins or more is expected from this group from this upcoming 2026 season. Now, how realistic that is up to Reinsdorf and Getz. I think Getz knows who his owner is in Reinsdorf, but Reinsdorf is holding this thing back, and it's going to be another tough sell as of right now for this upcoming season. Yes, you can sell fans hope with some of these young guys. You can sell fans with the promotional schedules, which the White Sox do very well of. But outside of that, it's not anything else that you can sell this White Sox fan base right now.
I mean, what's sort of interesting, because there were some rumors that they might, that there were some teams that might want to trade for Kyle Teal. So I guess that should show, but again, that should show that how sought after a lot of those young guys are. And so yeah, like I said, Chris Getz, with the season coming up, I think is pivotal, because especially with the labor uncertainty coming up, at the end of next season, I think you may want to try, perhaps maybe see if you can, at least make some inroads, at least get to near 500. So that way, because you never know, they might not be playing baseball for a while after next season. So you kind of have to, if you're the White Sox, I don't think it should be urgency, but you got to kind of play like, okay, you got to think long term till after whenever this labor dispute, whatever you want to call it, is settled. So if you're a White Sox fan right now, you want to, at least, you've got some young players, you've got the young guys, but you got to make the little top of the inroads, not necessarily competing, for the division or even for a wild card. But what I'm saying is that, perhaps maybe try and see if you can at least, finish above 500. That should be the goal for next year.
Yeah. And also, too, as I mentioned, you got to get a first baseman / DH, and you got to improve their bullpen. I know this Anthony Cage you mentioned. Okay, that's nice, but you got to do something else. And this is what GM Chris Getz has to work with a limited budget. He has to be creative in some trades. Will they go through? We shall see. Like I said, it's still early in the offseason. We're not even into January yet. So we'll see what the White Sox do here. You're listening to Second City Sports Zone Chicago City, LaKeena, here with you on the hashtag Football Friday, discussing the baseball winning meetings and the early deals from free agency that's taking place thus far. Let's go on to the north side and talk about your Cubs. They haven't made any big moves yet, but you have some free agents coming up as far as around this time next year. Shota Imanaga, who's coming back on a qualifying deal worth $22 million. Seiya Suzuki, Jameson Taillon, Ian Happ, Carson Kelly, Nico Horner, and Matthew Boyd are all free agents after next year. Out of those group of names that I just mentioned, LaKeena, we talked about Ian Happ could be possibly out of here if the deal is right. Do you see anybody else all those names that I just mentioned being traded this offseason?
I mean, could I
Or
see
should they
Boyd?
trade?
I don't think they should trade any of them unless you get like unless Jed Hoyer knows you can get a good solid return from them. And I think the Boyd stuff is interesting because like he had his best season of his career. I know some people say, well, let's trade him while his stock is hot. That way you can get something from him if he takes a step back next year. But again, if you're trying to win, and if you're still trying to compete, to win the NL Central, I don't think that's a good mindset to have. So I think unless a player is really good for and they fit what Craig Counsell is looking for, I think it might be you'll look at it. Now they did sign Hobie Miller yesterday, but again, does he really kind of move the needle for you if you're the Cubs? Probably not.
No.
So okay, you got another arm. Whoop-de-doo. That's fine. But again, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to be the mindset. I know they were in on Pete Alonso. They don't like. Tom Ricketts doesn't like to spend. So, I mean, that's not. Yeah, that's just. Yeah, that I have another. We don't have time for that. I'm not going to go on a tangent on that. But you're just like, okay, whatever. But it's a little bit nutty. But yeah, I think look, if you can get you another arm, because especially if what Counsell said is true, that Justice Steele might miss about the first month of the season, so recover from surgery. You're going to need somebody to kind of keep it going. Now, I'm sure that they didn't expect Shota to take that qualifying offer, but he did. So now, so now they got to do something to try to make a splash. So I don't know. You gotta start spending like you're a big market team. I know Alex Bregman, his name's still out there. I know they tried to get him last season. Zach Gallen, there was a rumor that they agreed to a deal, but it turned out that wasn't true. Then you got, of course, Suarez still out there. So you gotta make a play for some of these guys, and because if not, look, fans are gonna get a little bit restless, and I can't say I blame them because you can't sit on that. Look, I know next year is going to be the 10-year anniversary of that World Series. You can't play on that forever. People are going to want to, folks are going to want to win. They don't want to win another 100 years for another World Series. So you better start spending like your number 3 market, and you better do it even once all the labor stuff is settled.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it to that point because let's not forget you have the All-Star game coming up there in 2027, assuming that we play a 2027 season. If not, it's going to be moved to, I believe, 2029. I think the agreement was between them and Major League Baseball. Speaking of arms, LaKeena, we talked about it last year. They needed an arm. They did trade for Matthew Boyd. You saw he had a career year, also becoming an All-Star at the same time. Notable starting pitchers that's still out there as far as options for the Cubs. Framber Valdez, as we talked about before, their left-hander from Houston. You mentioned Ranger Suarez from Philadelphia. Nick Martinez from Cincinnati. I don't think he'll be a bad option. Of course, Chris Bassett from the American League champion Blue Jays. Of course, Zach Gallen, who we all thought on our last show that the Cubs had to deal with. He's still out there as a free agent. So the Cubs have options here. So of course, you got to there's always options if they wanted to deal for an arm as well. And I think out of the list that I just read to you a few moments ago, as far as players going into the final years of their contracts, I will find a way to move Ian Happ if you can get a starting pitcher, or I could find a way to move Seiya Suzuki out of here. We know that Kyle Tucker was a better defender in right field. That's why he was there last year, and Seiya Suzuki was primarily your DH. Now, and Seiya Suzuki should have been an All-Star, but that's a conversation, water under the bridge. But I would look to move Seiya Suzuki or Ian Happ if you can get that starting pitcher that's going to be a difference maker in the rotation. Because despite that Cade Horton injury last year, of course he didn't pitch in the playoff series against Houston against Milwaukee or San Diego. If the Cubs had a difference maker as far as this a starting pitcher, you could make the argument they would have beat the Milwaukee Brewers. You saw the type of arms they had on the other side, led by the rookie Jacob Morowski. If the Cubs had an arm like that, they probably would have been playing in NLCS.
And also, too, remember the last couple of days, Nico Horner's name has been flown around as perhaps maybe a trade piece for the Cubs. So I wouldn't be surprised if either he or Hap, especially if you can get good value for either one of them. I think if you can get, I love both of them, but if you can get a good, good starting pitcher or even an extra bullpen arm for either one of those guys, I think you got to do it for Jet Hoyer. So we'll see. Now, Tariq Skubal, two-time Cy Young winner from Detroit. His name is being thrown around. Apparently, I guess that the word it means or a buzz that the Tigers might trade him. Now, that pissed off our buddy Ryan Field. Of course, we all know he's a big Detroit. He's from Detroit, so I'm hearing other people there as well. Yeah. So they're not very happy with this maybe news. What do you think? Do you try to, if you're either well, they're not going to trade him in the division, obviously. So he won't be traded to the White Sox. Sorry, White Sox fans, but what do you think would it take for somebody to get Skubal?
Definitely a top 2 prospect. I'm assuming a hitting prospect, outfielder prospect, and a top pitching prospect. I think that's what's going to take to get him a couple of big time prospects. If you're bringing it back to Chicago, no, not the South Side, but to your Cubs. Owen Casey, let's just say if Tom Riggins, not Tom, him too, but if Carter Hawkins and Jed Hoyer decide to call Detroit, if they haven't already, what's it going to take to get Tariq Skubal? They're going to ask for Owen Casey. They're going to ask a couple of their top pitching prospects. That's what's going to take. In baseball, as we say all the time, prospects are suspects until they've proven themselves over a long period of time. Even the Cubs, just like the White Sox are trying to do now, you can't send on every prospect forever. All of them are not going to stay there when it's time to win. So if you're the Cubs, you one big move away, perhaps taking back the NL Central and not giving it back, i.e. Bears. But perhaps overtaking Milwaukee for the division, and maybe, just maybe, you can give a fighter's chance against the Los Angeles Dodgers. If I'm Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins, his assistant, I'm making a call to the Tigers. Now, the Tigers do not have to deal Skubal at all. He's entering the final year of his contract. That's why all these trade talks with him are ongoing. Trade rumors, rather, because he's entering the final year of his current contract. But if I'm Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins, I'm making a call to Detroit. What's going to take? I know you don't. If you're the Cubs, you don't want to gut your entire system, but if it's going to take Owen Casey, perhaps another top pitching prospect, maybe some other elements as well, if it's not too deep, I would make the move. But it's easy for us to say it sitting on this side. I know it's different on the other side. You're sitting behind the desk, you're getting paid to make those risky moves to see if it work or not. But I will at least make the call if I was the front office of the Chicago Cubs.
He just turned, I'll talk about school. He just turned 29 a few weeks ago. So, and he's been pitching lights out. Let me show you guys some of the statistics. He has an under one whip the last 2 years, a .92 whip and a .89 whip this past season. That's why he's won back-to-back Cy Youngs. And I think you gotta think he still has a good 2-3 years. I know AJ has been very careful with his pitch counts and stuff like that. So you gotta think he still has a little bit of left, maybe 2-3 years. So do you want to gut your farm system for 2-3 more years of dominant pitching, from Skubal, even if he does end up going into the National League? I mean, do you take a chance on that? So I don't know. I think it'll be just the Tigers brass is in a tough spot because he is in the final year of his contract. That's why you're hearing all these rumors about him perhaps. So Jeff Greenberg, you got to think he's gonna. I'm sure his phones are ringing off the hook as to what to do here, because again, you don't know if after next season, you don't know if you're going to be playing baseball. So you got to take that into account as well. So some of these teams now, again, I'm sure the Dodgers are going to try and call him. I'm sure, I think they better. The Cubs better at least call at the very least. The Yankees maybe. I'm trying to see maybe Philadelphia. They can always use more pitching, especially since Zach Wheeler, how he's going to be when coming back next year. So yeah, I mean, I would think that maybe they would want to at least listen to some offers. I don't think they're going to do it because, like I said, the ball's totally on their court. I'm talking about Detroit, so I doubt that they'll do anything. Though they won't move them, school. But I would say if you're in that position, I would say, hey, if I'm Jeff Grieger, I would say talk to me.
One more name I want to bring up before we break for the bottom of the hour. Tyler Glasnow, reports came out today courtesy of ESPN. Tyler Glasnow, we don't know, he has had his injury issues over the last few seasons, but when he's healthy, he's very good. Of course, he's part of that Dodgers World Series team from this past year. Do you take a chance on Tyler Glasnow if you're the Chicago Cubs? Because it wouldn't have to take much to get him.
No, I would say
you don't have to give up the whole farm to go get him.
Right. No, and I think you could probably give him a good incentive latent deal. If you could perhaps maybe if he pitches a certain amount of games or if he gets a certain amount of strikeouts or whatever, maybe a team option for a second or third year at a good amount, we'll say 45, 50 million. I would do it if I'm the Cubs. I think he's definitely the guy, like you said. I mean, I know he's been injury prone the last couple of years, but we saw in the World Series that when he's good, he's actually really good. So, I'm thinking that maybe I would say I would take a chance if you're the Cubs. I think, or if any team for that matter. I think, like I said, give him a good 2 year, a 1 year prove it deal, and then just give him a lot of maybe a team option or incentives. If he has a good, season, maybe he can add more money or add more incentives to it. I think I would take a chance on that because I really like the way how he pitches. So again, I would say, put the terms a little bit, but I think he'd be a good option for the Cubs because they really need pitching.
All right, work is still to be had with free agency in terms of MLB, in terms of both our teams, both the Cubs and the Sox. So as I said before, we still have a long way to go. We're just early in the offseason process. We'll be back with the process of picking NFL Week 15 games. Our picks last week, not to be shallow, but it was pretty terrible. I'll speak for myself first, but can all three of us rebound this week? And will the Bears rebound against the Cleveland Browns? That and a whole lot more. You stick and stay right here on Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live, and then we call it right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Ken McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
This is our last segment of the show for today and for the week. So if you have any last minute questions or comments of any of the topics that we discussed thus far on today's show, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena, we get to open the screen for you.
Let's not waste any more time, Sid. She is our girl from Sioux Falls. Well, for here in Chicago, but she is based over in Sioux Falls, South Dakota at KXRB. She's the one, the only, the fabulous Miss Christine, the Queen Manika. Hey, what's up, Christine?
Yay!
How are you?
Hello.
Stay warm. Trying to stay warm.
There we go.
Trying to stay warm. How are you?
Same here. Yeah, we're trying to stay warm over here too.
Oh boy, it's been well, the one thing that was not warm was our picks.
No, yeah, no one had a really good week.
No, we really didn't. I know I only had 8. Christine, you and Sid had 6. So yeah, so now I'm up a game of no, actually, no, wait, so my count. Yeah. No, you know what? Wait, so 8. Oh, no, you're actually No, my math is off here. But yeah, I'm up a game on both of y'all. So because of that. So yeah, but no worries. So look, we're in the last 3-4 weeks of the season. Now, real quick, let's talk about this game in the NFC South. The Falcons came back. They were down 10, and not a good showing by your guy Baker Mayfield. And now, 29-28, the Falcons beat the Bucs, and now with this loss, now the Panthers can pass them for first place in the NFC South, and they actually will face each other in the next couple of weeks. So, real quick, synopsis of that game last night, guys. Sid, I'll start with you.
The Buccaneers, as I said, they need to get back on track with their running first quarter. They let Atlanta hang around until that final quarter with a Falcons outscored them 15-8. You can tell that Baker Mayfield's non-throwing shoulder is bothering him. I know Mike Evans returned to the lineup last night, but that passing game, I'm talking about for Tampa Bay, has been really been ineffective these last few weeks, and their defense has just been shot. You saw what the Saints did to them last week, especially in that second half. Atlanta put it on them in that fourth quarter. And free Kyle Pitts, he had 3 touchdowns last night, so good for Atlanta. Now, Raheem Morris was yelling at the camera last night, as we know they're not going to go to the playoffs. Maybe Morris keeps his job, but this is more about Tampa Bay self-destructive more than anything.
Christine.
Honestly, after a little bit, when I saw that the Bucs were up for a period of time, they were up by at least 10 points. I'm like, yeah, you know what? This game's in the bag. We can go to bed now. We can go to bed and wake up with the Bucs win. And to my surprise, they let that lead slip away rather quickly, actually, in the fourth quarter. And it's now or never for the Bucs. Really, they either got to step up and show out, or not even bother coming to the field. It's very tough because they were at such a high this season, and then to see them kind of come crashing down quickly is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, 2 of their last 3, like I said, are both against the Panthers. So both those games will probably definitely end up being for that division. So That'd be very interesting. And of course, Atlanta, because of first team NFL history to win a game where they had at least 14 more penalties than their opponent and face a deficit by at least 14 points. So, yeah, I guess look, you're not going to the playoffs, so you might as well celebrate like you're able to pull off a big upset. So, yeah, good for them. Now, again, no more buys. Everyone plays from here on out. And good news, both Fox and CBS have double header, so you're gonna have a double header this week here first. So yeah, that's pretty good. Now we'll start with this one.
Yay!
Yeah, I know, right? I'm right. That's awesome, right? So so yeah, but I think I guess some parts of the nation will get this game in the AFC North. You got the Ravens with that tough loss against the Steelers and against the Bengals. Joe Money, not playing as the best, but Christine, you start this one for us.
I'm done picking the Ravens this season until they show me something different. I think I've had it with the Ravens this season. And Joe Burrow, for his first game back last week in the snow against Buffalo, wasn't his greatest showing, but for all intents and purposes, like he played pretty well for just being injured for an extended period of time. So I think they'll be able to pull this one off, especially since I don't know what's going on with the Ravens right now. I don't think anybody knows what's going on with them.
What was the first game? My screen froze up on me, LaKeena.
Ravens and Bengals.
Baltimore.
Yes. Yep.
Cincy.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. All
right. Yes. Yeah, Cincinnati lost in a shootout last week at Buffalo. We know what happened to Baltimore. Baltimore self-destructed at home against Pittsburgh. I'm not a believer in this Baltimore team right now. Lamar Jackson, as we said in our last show, he's more hurt than what he's letting on. In Cincinnati, it was one of those two turnovers by Christine's guy, Joe Money. The Bengals would have walked out of Buffalo in an upset. Baltimore's favored by 2.5. I'm going to step out here. I'm going Cincinnati.
Well, we'll be at 3 for 3. I'm picking Cincy too. I'm with you, Christine. I'm done picking Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm done with them.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, that they just just very disappointing. I know Derrick Henry's been doing his thing, but yeah, they have not been playing their best. And I'm looking at the Lamar Jackson. He's a little bit more hurt than he's letting on. So I'm sure some will come out at the end of the season. All right, Cardinals and Texans. Sid.
Cardinals in Texas. Let me find that on my score sheet here. The Texans are favored by 9.5 points at home. As I told you last week on this show, they will beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, they did it dominating fashion, 20-10. How did they do it? Running the ball and playing strong defense and having Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid look like lost souls. Now the Arizona Cardinals, they're throwing in the towel so they can play freely as they want to, even though Kyler Murray's done for the year. The Texans, how many points they'll put up on offense? Hopefully this will be the game that C.J. Stroud will get his confidence back. I think that's going to happen to a certain extent, but the Texans are the play here. They're the better team at home, and they can smell blood in the water in the AFC South. So I'm going with Houston.
My advice to C.J. Stroud: don't let you leave your owner hanging when it comes to a high five, because he waited 3 days for that high five. It was successful, but still, don't make your owner wait 3 days for that high five win. I'm going with the Texans here. Like you said, Sid, the Cardinals are kind of in a free fall right now, and they're basically playing for the first round pick.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they are kind of playing, especially Marvin Harrison Jr. He might as well be done for the year as well. He's not playing, so yeah, I'm picking Houston for this one. All right. Let's see here. Next up, you got the Jets and the Jaguars. And, that's going to be interesting. And also, too, incidentally, Baltimore and Cincinnati are brothers. Real dudes who had to call that game for CBS. Now, next up here, we got Jets and Jags. So, I'll do it. I'm going to say the Jaguars. I think this is not the same Jaguars team that will F up, if you will. So, I'm going to I like how Trevor Lawrence is playing. I like how Travis Etienne is playing. That defense is really solid. And so the Jets, they're the Jets. I think they're probably taking for the number 1 pick. So yeah, I'm picking the Jags.
Yeah, same thing what I said about the Cardinals. Like the Jets right now are playing for that number one pick. I'm picking the Jags here. It's not the same team. You're right about that, LaKeena.
Duval! Leopold and crew will get the job done. They're favored by 13.5. I'm going with Jacksonville.
All right, now I will be watching this game on this computer screen here. Chargers, after a big win Monday night against the Eagles, they faced the Chiefs, of course. The Chargers won the first matchup early on. So, Sid, you start this one for us.
Yeah, the Chargers got away with murder the other night on Monday Night Football, beating the Philadelphia Eagles. The Chiefs, as I said, they're left for dead as far as playoffs are concerned. But I think the Chiefs have a little bit more left in the tank. Not much, but they have a little bit more in the tank. The Chargers should be the play here, but Justin Herbert, you paid attention closely last Monday night. He's protecting that left hand. Don't mistake that the Chiefs are not going to come after Justin Herbert with that left hand injury. I think they will, and I think they'll win this ball game. Kansas City will even up their record at 500 at 7-7. They're currently favored by 5.5 at home.
Yeah, I think the Chargers they're really down when it comes to injuries for them. And Justin Herbert, I think he's just hanging on for as long as he can right now. Now, if this doesn't happen this week, the Chiefs winning, I'm done picking them for the rest of the season. I don't care if there's 3 weeks left. I'm going to be done picking them. But for the last time, probably, I'm hesitantly going with the Chiefs.
I have Kansas City with your thing, Christine. Question mark?
Yeah, question mark?
Yeah, because look, if we were doing confidence picks, like this would be maybe a 1 or a 2, because the Chargers, the big win against Philadelphia, short week, having to travel halfway across country, the injuries. I think Amari on Hampton, I think having him back could be huge for that run game. That might be the play here, especially since the weather is going to be very cold out there in Arrowhead. Picking Kansas City hesitantly, I would take it the under though. I don't like that number. So, but yeah, if Justin Herbert has his best game of the season with that non-throwing hand, I would be surprised. But for this one, I'm picking the Chiefs. All things being equal, here.
Yeah. Just real quick, LaKeena. The Chargers are 0-2 on the East Coast this year. Remember, they lost at the Giants in Jackson Dart's first start, and they lost at Jacksonville a few weeks ago.
Well, okay. So incidentally, Christine, you will begin this game on CBS. So yeah, you'll be able to watch that Chargers Kansas City game. Now, I will also be watching this game on the computer here. You got Bills and Patriots, and that should be a good one. Now, of course, the Patriots beat the Bills in upstate New York their first meeting. Chicago will get this game too, so we'll get this game, as part of the double header. So, Sid?
Yeah, the Patriots got a lock on paper for the AFC East division title. The Buffalo Bills, big win last week, even though it wasn't their best effort defensively, against Cincinnati. The Bills are 3-3 away from Rich Stadium. The Patriots, Mike Vrabel, their head coach, former player, he's up as a top candidate for Coach of the Year. Drake May is playing at an MVP level this year, but I'm going with the experience. I think the Patriots, it's time for them to experience some humble pie, just a little bit. I'm going with Buffalo. They're currently favored by 1.5, which means Vegas has them at a pick 'em.
I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up in a tie, or maybe the Patriots pull this one out, just because with the Bills, it seems like it's almost like an every other week, every couple of weeks. It just seems kind of off with their system. But this is the week I know that they're going to get ready for and get right for. I'm sure they had this circled on their calendar after they lost to the first meeting with them. And I think the Bills are going to show them up at Gillette Stadium. So I'm going with the Bills in Foxborough.
Yeah, make it 3 for 3. I think, like you guys said, I think they've been wanting this game. They want to get them back, especially for being them at home. They're getting healthy. Their defense is getting healthy at the right time. They're getting a little bit better. They're making the plays. So I think Drake might get a little bit of a taste of some humble pie, like you said. So I'm picking Buffalo here as well. So might as well make it a sweep. I feel bad for people who have to watch this next game. The Commanders and the Giants. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm picking the Giants only because somebody's got to win that game. And yeah, the Commanders are basically getting up on the season. Go. Next.
I'm picking the Giants, question mark. So Giants? Question mark.
I think the Commanders. I think it's safe to say. I think that they'll score some points in this game, but I don't think it's not going to be enough. Jackson Dart, the rookie QB for the Giants, will have a big day. I'm going with the New York Football Giants. They're currently favored by 2.5 points.
All right. Okay. The last game of the noon schedule, of course, outside the Bears Browns game, the Raiders and the Eagles. Christine.
Eagles. This is another one, just keeping it short and sweet. The Raiders are just trying to get through the rest of the season. So is Pete Carroll.
Wouldn't it be funny? Would it be funny if the Eagles lost to the Raiders at home?
They won't think it's
the whole stadium would be leaving at the third quarter. Forget the end of the game at the fourth.
Okay.
They'll be leaving in the third.
They're not gonna think it's funny though.
No,
they won't think it's funny.
Sirianni better be having Big Dom with him as backup.
Oh yeah, yes, please, yes. I love Big Dom.
I think if they lose this game time by Philadelphia, I think they're gonna need the Pennsylvania State Troopers to be on site for that walkout too. But but that's all another issue. But as far as this game is concerned, the Eagles' defense has not been a problem all year. It's been their offense. The big question here is, can the Eagles put up more than 21 points? If they can, I think they'll win this ball game just because they're the better team on paper. And Jalen Hurts has been taking heat all week from the Philadelphia sports media. I'm going with the Eagles. They're currently favored by 11.5 points. Well, let's just say if Philadelphia puts up 28 points or more, is everything right with the world? No, but because they're better than the Raiders on paper, I think they'll look good for 1 week.
If they don't win this game, they're going to need Dom. They're going to have to the state troopers. They're going to have to hire their Governor Shapiro's security. Bring his security detail. This is not going to be good if they don't win this game against the Raiders. Shame on them. I'm picking Philadelphia. But I know Geno Smith's been banged up as well. So Aiden O'Connell, I should say, if he's a starter, the defense better pounce. So we'll see what happens now. All right, the first of the 325 games. Remember, we get a double header. This one's on CBS. You got the Packers and the Broncos. Sid.
Christine, you better tell Chris that everybody in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago is rooting for his Broncos. The Packers, we know what they did to the Bears last week. The Broncos, they've been dominating all year. They beat the Raiders by 7 points last week in the most ugliest dominating fashion, 24-17 against the Raiders on the road last week. I think this is going to be a physical game, and it's going to come down to the running game for both teams. Josh Jacobs for Green Bay, and of course PJ Harvey on the other side for Denver. Because they're at home, I'm going with the Broncos. Green Bay's favored by 2.5. I'm going with Denver here. I think Jordan Love, even though he did play well in spots against Chicago last week, they took advantage of a couple of coverage breakdowns from the Bears. Because of a stronger defense, which Green Bay will see, unlike Chicago last week, Denver is the play here. I'm going an upside. I'm going with Denver.
I'm going to go with Denver here. It's the Mile High City. It's just different when you play out there. It's a different atmosphere, literally. And there are still some holes, I think, in the Packers system. I'm going to give the Bears some credit here defense-wise. They were able to break up Jordan Love a couple of times during some plays, and they got him nervous. I will say that. They got him nervous, especially with that interception. But I digress. I'm going with the Broncos in an upset.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I'm picking Denver ? Just because they're at home. And it's different playing in the Mile High City. That could be, that Mile High air. Look, you saw Joe Buck, do whip it, during that game against that Monday night game, in Denver. Look, if he gets to him, I can get to somebody. We'll get to him in a second because he got a great honor yesterday. But yeah, Denver, I think is a play here. I think the defense is just a little bit better than the Packers defense. This could be one of those physical 9-6, 6-3 type of games. But it should be a good one out there that most of the nation will get to see on CBS. Now, Lions and Rams. I think some of the nation will get. I think most of the nation will get this game. I think except for unless you're in I guess outside of that. But Rams and Lions. Jesus. This is another tough one for me. This is one of those like I have no clue what's going to happen type of game. So I guess since they're at home, I'm picking the Rams. I guess I think Matt Stafford. I kind of trust him a little bit more than I trust Jared Goff, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm picking the Rams. I think the Rams are a player. I'm picking them.
Oh, this is the year of Matt Stafford for sure. If he wanted the MVP, this is the year for it. I think it's his world, and we're just living in it right now. I do think the Lions are going to be putting up a good fight, though, because they want to get back at the top. They want to have their spot back up there. The Rams, they're not going to give it to them on a silver platter, and it's not going to be easy for them if they do end up pulling off the win. But because the Rams are just a different team this year, they're good. I'm going with them.
It's the return of Jared Goff to Los Angeles for the first time since he got traded. I believe it's the first time he's returned to Los Angeles. Los Angeles, he got traded to the Lions from the Rams. Rather, the Lions they're fighting for their playoff lives right now. And they had a nice little mini bye after beating the Cowboys almost a couple weeks ago. The Rams got back on track, destroying Arizona on the road. Whose house? Rams' house. Rams are favored by 6. I'm going with Los Angeles.
All right. Now, the Panthers and the Saints. Now, suddenly this game is big for the Panthers because if they win this game, they go into that game against the Bucks in first place. Sid.
Ooh, as we said about the Saints and Buccaneers game last week, it was going to be a tough one because it's a division game. I'll say the same thing here. Now, the Panthers have a better talent offensively, but defensively, the Saints can bring it, i.e. watch that game in the second half against Tampa Bay. But as far as this game is concerned, I think Carolina will have just a little bit more to pull out the tank. Bryce Young must play better. I know he has 18 touchdown passes to 9 interceptions on the year. Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard have a nice 1-2 combination as far as the running game is concerned. And the Panthers have a nice wide receiving core, Xavier Legette and rookie McMillan as well. So the Panthers, in my opinion, have a little bit more better talent offensively than the Saints. It's going to be close. It's going to be tough, but I expect the Panthers to win. And they currently have the Vegas has a favor by 2.5 on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to get the Panthers the road win here too. They have a lot more to prove, especially when it comes to a big divisional game like this one. And this is pretty much going to secure their place, I think, for the next couple of weeks going forward into the postseason potentially for them. Going with the Panthers.
Yeah, I think that if their social media people, they tweeted it out last night. A big game. So yeah, they win this game, they'll be in first place by themselves in that NFC South going into that game next week against Tampa, the first meeting. So yeah, I think Carolina should win this one. But again, New Orleans, they've been playing a little bit better lately. Tyler Show has been, really solid. I think he probably would love to play spoiler for the Panthers, like he did for Tampa last week. So I'm picking Carolina, but yeah, I'm picking Carolina. I think they've been hot right now. Well, this game was actually good for maybe a month ago. The Colts and the Seahawks. Seattle, that defense, they got defense. They're not Legion of Boom, but they're definitely build a nice, good core defense there. Of course, you got Jackson Smith and Jigba. Sam Darnold are playing very well. Kenneth Walker III. Seattle, sorry, Phillip Rivers, love you. I don't know if he'll play, but I'm picking Seattle for this one.
I'll tell you what, I'm picking Seattle for this game, but if I see Phillip Rivers walk on that field, I'm going to be cheering for that guy. Holy cow. It's like I'm reliving my high school collegehood days again, just seeing Phillip Rivers back on the field playing. It's kind of crazy. The funniest thing about it is when he walked into the press conference room and he's like, no Zoom? All right, let's go. Like, that's how long this guy has been out of the league, was during COVID. So it's kind of crazy to see him come back. And if he is taking the field, I'm going to be rooting for him 100%. But on paper, I am picking the Seahawks.
As of this live broadcast, Phillip Rivers is on the practice squad. And if he gets activated, he's got to wait 6 more years to become eligible for the Hall of Fame. But listen to this stat, guys. Before Daniel Jones' injury last week at Jacksonville, Indianapolis was favored by, I believe, 3.5. Since the Daniel Jones got hurt, it switched almost a 10-point swing. Now Seattle's favored by 13.5. Will they cover that? I'm sure they will. I'm going with the Seahawks. They're the better play here, of course, and of course they're at home.
All right. Titans and 49ers. Titans with that big, nice upset win in Cleveland. 49ers coming off a bye. Christine.
The 49ers, hands down, they're coming off the bye. And Titans, again, just another team trying to make it through the next season, one game at a time. So 49ers here.
49ers for me, they're favored by 12.5 at home.
Yeah, will the Titans cover? I think that's really the main question. Yeah, I think San Francisco should win this one pretty easily because, you guys said they're coming off a bye. They know they gotta, basically, keep winning to make it to the playoffs. So, yeah, I think San Francisco, they should be able to win this one pretty handily. You're saying Niner, Vikings, and Cowboys. I mean, it's interesting though because this game is really going to be interesting, to me. I think. Only because they're at home, I guess. I'm picking Dallas. They're starting to kind of, fall off a little bit. So, yeah, I'm picking Dallas for this one. But then again, if the Vikings somehow win, I would not be surprised. But I'm picking Dallas for this one, all things being equal here.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I am picking the Cowboys for this one. It is going to be an interesting game, especially when it comes to the NFC North. Like, it is going to be a big game, at least for the Vikings in their perspective, when it comes to rankings and whatnot. So I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled off this win because JJ has looked better within the last couple of weeks. I still think Dak is the more experienced leader, more experienced quarterback with the guys to back up for it. And Justin Jefferson, he's good with the Vikings. He's great with the Vikings, but it's just there's a little bit more talent on the offensive side, I think, for the Cowboys at the moment.
The Cowboys are a better team at home than they are on the road, especially offensively. The Cowboys are 4-1-1 at home this year. I expect them to continue to roll here. I'm going with the Cowboys. They're currently favored by 5.5.
All right, your Monday nighter, you got the Dolphins and the Steelers. TJ Watt had to have surgery, emergency surgery for a partially collapsed lung. He's going to be out for this game. They just made the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
So although the Dolphins have been playing a little bit better lately, the Steelers, they're in the driver's seat now in the AFC North. This might be against my better judgment. I'm picking the Steelers again against my better judgment, but Miami. If Miami somehow pulls off the upset, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm picking Pittsburgh. They're the play here.
I have 4 question marks this week, and the 4th question mark is Steelers. So Steelers, sure. Let's see what happens because all of a sudden the Dolphins are going to make it interesting for some teams for the rest of the season.
I'll be that idiot. I'll go with the Dolphins in an upset.
Well, I was going to say, someone has to be different because we all have the same picks.
Yeah, I know, right? So somebody has to do it. So this game, why not this game? So if look, depends on how cold it is, I guess. If it's going to be like colder than like 28
it's going to be 22 degrees.
Well, Tua doesn't play very well in cold weather. So
warmer than Chicago anyway.
Well, that's true. That's true. All things being equal here. But yeah, speaking of the Bears, last but not least, you got the Browns and the Bears. A small portion of the country will get this game, of course, here in Chicago, including here in Chicago, most of like the Midwest and such. It'll be on CBS. Fox, I should say. You'll have Kevin Kluger and Daryl Moose Johnson, who should be in the Hall of Fame, but that's neither here nor there. We don't have time to talk about that. But I'm gonna go down that tangent here. So Chrissy, you'll be able to watch this game as well. Most of the upper Midwest and the Central Plains. So, Sid.
Yeah, of course, the Bears lost their comeback attempt at Green Bay last week, even though they did show signs after trailing 14-3 in that first half. Ben Johnson has to make a couple adjustments. Caleb Williams, although played well in that second half, despite that interception. This is a get-right game for the Chicago Bears. I know some of the players don't want to face it as a trap game because you play Green Bay at home next Saturday night. But for all the ills that this team has right now, if you want to get them fixed, it look good on paper for 1 week, you beat the guy and that's you're better than across from you. I'm going with the Bears in the 7.5 points, so I'm going with Chicago.
Going with Chicago here, exactly what you said, Sid. It's a good get-right game. Now, I will say that interception from Caleb, he underthrew it, and that was his first interception in like 8 or 9 games. So he's had a pretty solid season when it comes to keeping the turnovers in check. And I'm happy that they came out in the second half and they kind of got their act together. It was a moral victory, I think, for the Bears, essentially. And I learned a couple of weeks ago that truly this could be just a second half team. So I didn't totally freak out in the first half. It wasn't until like the very end in the fourth quarter where they let my heart rate go up and down a little bit too much. They just got to get control of Myles Garrett. The line needs to hold in order for Myles Garrett not to get to Caleb so quick. They've done it already this year with big defensive names like Max Crosby for the Raiders. They were able to hold him. And I think this should be no different. So the Bears at home, good get right game for them.
The Browns defense are like in the top 5 when it comes to sacks. And shout out to Peter Schrader who did the stat for on Get Up this morning. The Bears are 1-8-1 against the spread after playing Green Bay, win or lose. That 7.5 points a little bit too high, especially with the weather. It's going to be very windy. It's going to be 20, 25 mile an hour winds. Now, I have the Bears, but I'm going to say the Browns will cover because I think that defense still has a lot to play for. So Myles Garrett especially. They're going to keep them in it for a little bit. I think the Bears defense should be able to get a couple of takeaways from the Shedeur Sanders. Well, if he doesn't give the ball to Judkins, so that's probably that's going to be the play here. Mm-hmm. I think the Bears will win, but like I said, I'll take I think the Browns will cover.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena here with you. Breaking news from the world of basketball. LaKeena in the NBA, according to Shams Charania, Victor Wembanyama, who's missed the last 12 games with the left calf strain. Now that we have the NBA Cup semifinals and finals in Vegas, he'll make his return against the Oklahoma City.
Oh gosh. Him and SGA, that should be him against SGA. That should be fun. That should be a lot of fun. That SGA and Wemby. So that should be a whole lot of fun with that one. Now the college football. Now of course you got some bowl games coming up starting tomorrow. But all the weirdness happening off the field. We'll start with your Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Christine. They didn't get into the playoff. They decided not to play BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So what say you? What's your thoughts on that?
I honestly stand by their decision. I really do, just because it's their way of telling the committee and the media networks, ESPN, basically their way of saying, you screwed with us for the last 5-6 weeks. We're just going to give it right back to you. To have them basically dangle the carrot of the playoffs in front of Notre Dame for the past 5-6 weeks, saying that they were going to be in the playoffs. There was no question about it. If BYU loses, for sure they're going into the playoffs. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to the team. It wasn't fair to the coaches, to the school in general, just to have their hopes like that so high and to have a lot of, good vibes for Selection Sunday. I'm sure they had everybody in that film room watching the selection show and seeing their name pop up. So I get it. I totally understand their decision. I do think that it's wrong for them not to be in it, especially, don't get me wrong, I like Kalen DeBoer. He's a South Dakota kid, but Alabama should not be in this playoff. They just shouldn't be in this playoff. Notre Dame should have that spot, among with a couple of other teams. I think that should be out and Notre Dame should be in. But we'll see what happens next year going forward, and hopefully Notre Dame can get back in the same position.
I said it on Monday, and I'll say it here with you, Christine. I disagree with the position from Notre Dame. The only disservice that they did was to their fans and obviously to the players and coaches, especially the player. I want to focus in on the players, especially with the seniors that are on that team. Even though they're not going to be playing in the college football playoff, wherever bowl game they play, for the seniors on that team that have been working their tails off for the past 3 or 4 years. You're going to tell them without. We're assuming that it wasn't the players, but it came from the administration. The players did not have a say in it, and especially for the seniors, my heart goes out to them because of the decision beyond your control that your last game was the last regular season game. Now you're not going to have an opportunity to play in a bowl game. I think that decision did a disservice to the players and to the coaches. It was a slap in the face to the seniors, and I don't think that was right.
Yeah, like I said on Monday on our first show on Monday for this week. I just think it was silly and kind of like comes across as entitled. Like, oh, you were entitled to a position, and then you got the AD going around saying, hey, say bad things about the ACC, which you are in other sports, just not in football. So you're just like, what are you trying to do here? But yeah, you feel for those guys. We'll talk about. Well, there's got to be some, celebration for one guy. We'll talk about him in a second here.
And
but
I'll just say one thing. Notice how nobody else is saying anything about Iowa State not playing or Kansas not playing in their bowl
and
game.
Baylor, yeah,
yeah. Everyone is giving Notre Dame a hard time for saying no to their bowl game, but there are about 7 or 8 other schools who said no to the bowl game. So to throw it all on Notre Dame like that, I don't think that's totally fair.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair enough. Yeah. Iowa State. Yeah. You're right about that. Now, well, this one's just a little bit weirder. Sharon Moore got fired from Michigan after and then the charges and stuff like that. I won't get into the details because it's a little bit weird. But he's facing charges of stalking, home invasion, and such. He got fired with cause. What do you guys think, Chrissy? I'll start with you. What do you think of all this stuff that's transpiring over in Ann Arbor?
It's a sad situation. It honestly is. And, this guy, he basically was the savior for Michigan after Jim Harbaugh left and the whole sign stealing scandal came out. So he was kind of like the saving grace for that program in different ways, especially, coming out right away, beating Ohio State in your first season. That doesn't happen too often. So he was, I would say he was a saving grace for Michigan. I will also say that mental health is a serious thing. And when you're coaching at that high a level in the Big Ten, big rivalry games, a lot of strong competition, it gets stressful. You do things that you're not normally known to do. You act out. And I think that's what we're seeing unfold here on a national scale. I feel horrible for his family. I feel horrible for the mistress's family involved. It's just a very tough situation, and I can only pray and hope for the best for everyone going forward out of this, especially the players on the team right now.
There's enough blame to go around, LaKeena, and I'll just say this for now. Ex head coach Coach Moore, when you get all that money, you get all that power, using air quotes here, you get all that power, you get all that fame, all the glory. I'm using the old phrase that we heard back in the day. You start feeling yourself. And when you think you could do no wrong, when you win, it gets ignored. As we say in sports all the time, winning is the greatest deodorant. And we saw that with Michigan this year until they lost to Ohio State. I heard a lot of opinions over the last 24, 48 hours. And we know how Michigan showed up to that game against Ohio State a couple of weeks ago. If they were to his wife, his children, and to the rest of his family about his actions, he was foolish in them. But the University of Michigan, they had to look themselves in the mirror when they're trying to find a new head coach. When you're winning, everything is swept under the rug. Now that you lost to Ohio State, all of a sudden all this stuff comes out in the open. They knew what was going on for months, and they didn't do anything back then. That's where I blame the institution of Michigan. There's enough blame to go around here. So I'm curious to see who's going to be the next head coach. Obviously, it's going to be opposite of Coach Moore. They was trying to find a way out for him. They got it done. Well, who's going to be the next head coach? I don't know, but there's enough blame to go around here to the University of Michigan and to ex-Coach Moore. So you can't blame just one thing. There's enough blame to go around.
Yep.
It's going to be very interesting, though. Like you said, I think 9-4, which I think for most schools would take 9-4, but it's Michigan, so unfortunately they lose to Ohio State for the first time in like 5 years. Now, some of the names that have been floated around for Michigan head coach, you got Kalen DeBoer from Alabama. You got Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, who actually worked for Jim Harbaugh, and oddly enough, his son Jay Harbaugh, who's over with the Seahawks. I think that's his oldest, one of his oldest of 7. He has 7 kids. I think he's the second oldest. He's over there. I think he still coaches special teams, but he's also worked with his dad. So I think I would be surprised if they go with either him or Minter, because they want to keep a lot of those guys, especially Bryce Underwood. So, the QB there. So, yeah, those are going to be some names that are going to be floating around there, perhaps as a Michigan head coach. But, yeah, Michigan's going to have to eat this one up because, yeah, they kind of use this as the excuse to try to fire him. Because if they had beaten Ohio State, they've had a better record and such. I mean, we probably wouldn't even know about it. But since, everything that happened with Ohio State and, they're 9-4, now all this stuff is, kind of, the plug is open, if you will. So that was still, it's just crazy things going on around up there in Ann Arbor.
I also heard a couple of names I heard the last 24 hours or so. Dabo Swinney of Clemson, and of course, Brian Kelly, who got fired a few weeks ago from LSU.
That would be Michigan going backwards for that. And the whole Kalen DeBoer rumor, I don't see that happening. Not in his second year at Alabama. He's at least going to wait a little bit until he makes the jump, I believe. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think that the top two guys probably going to be Mentor, of course, the Mentor and Jay Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh's son. So yeah, I think those are going to be the two names forward to look at. I know Jed Fish's name for Washington. I know he's been floating around. Manny Diaz, I can't see that being a good fit. I know Tommy Reese from Cleveland, the Browns OC. He's coaching Shedeur right now in that offense. His name's been floating around there as well. Of course, former Notre Dame QB. He's from the area. Could be interesting to see what happens up in Ann Arbor.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here, wrapping up today's show. We have about another minute or two left. LaKeena, you said Joe Buck received a special honor this week, earlier this week. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think yesterday. I think it was just yesterday. He actually is getting an honor that his dad Jack had way back when he won the 4C Fritch Award, which is for best baseball, for his contributions to baseball broadcasting. He's doing more football now, but his dad Jack, of course, the legendary voice for the Cardinals and also CBS, and also did stuff for ABC as well. He won the award back in I believe like in the early 90s. But yeah, the first father-son combination to win that award, of course, the Frick Award, the Ford C. Frick Award is for excellence in broadcasting by the Baseball Hall of Fame. So congrats to him.
I'll give him a round of applause.
Yeah, he's the only national TV announcer to call both World Series victories for both Chicago's baseball teams.
Yep. Yes, he has. So yeah. 87 was when Jack, his dad Jack, won that award. So yeah. So that was just I want to give him a shout out there because, like I said, he doesn't do baseball anymore. I know you say he missed it a little bit, but you say he loves doing football more on a regular full-time basis. So just want to give him a congrats.
Yeah, I know we got to go here, and we'll dive deep into this on Monday, LaKeena. But the Stuart Scott documentary, the 30 for 30 that aired this past Wednesday, 2 thumbs up. Like I said, we'll get into it more on Monday, but 2 thumbs up from ESPN. And his daughters, Sidney and Taylor, did an outstanding job.
That's nice.
Yeah, Andre Gaines, of course, the director of that one. I think he kind of let the Stewart's voice tell the story. And I'm sure if you guys didn't see it yet, look, if you have DVR'd or recorded, don't worry. It's going to repeat itself, though, I'm sure, throughout the weekend. But yeah, it was a really well done documentary and some stuff that you probably knew and some stuff you didn't know. So it was a really, really solid, another solid 30 for 30 doc for ESPN, as most of them are.
Any last words, Christine, before we head out?
Go Bears.
And stay warm, too, I would say.
Yes, stay warm.
Stay warm if you are going to go to the Soldier. You follow back Keita McGee on the tour, execution, get the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Christine, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
They can follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, at Manika_KXRB.
All right, you can catch Second City Sports every Monday and Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Every Monday, Friday, noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And you know we will provide.
Yeah, so you can catch the replays anytime, anywhere. It's all right there for you. So, look, if you guys are going to go to these games this week, especially in most of the upper Midwest, stay warm, especially if you're going to Soldier Field. Please stay warm. Don't be one of those knuckleheads that goes shirtless. Please don't. I recommend you don't do that.
There's going to be someone.
Oh, it's always going to be that one knucklehead, right? Yes, enjoy all the football, the basketball, baseball. Keep you guys updated if there's any more big signings coming up as well. So, first, and also hockey too. Shout out to the Blackhawks. They got a game tonight against the Blues. You can catch the game on ESPN Plus and Hulu Live if you got that. So enjoy the hockey as well. So first, and Christine, I'm the kids of Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago, and we'll see you guys next week.
The Bears, holla!